Welcome back, spiders, to another episode on Reddit Spider. Today, we have a story that proves some bosses don't just cross the line, they completely erase it. My boss tried to ruin my career to save his own skin, so I used his own master plan to make his entire department collapse. Before we dive into the chaos, make sure to crawl over to that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment below, what's the worst thing a boss has ever asked you to do? Let's get into it. This happened about 6 months ago. I was working as a senior systems analyst for a logistics firm that I'll call LogiCorp. I loved my job, the pay was decent, and the workload was manageable. My only issue? My manager, Greg. Greg was the definition of a failing upward corporate zombie. He didn't know the difference between Java and JavaScript, but he was an expert at taking credit for my team's hard work. Whenever a project succeeded, Greg was upper management's golden boy. Whenever a system crashed, Greg blamed the junior staff. One day, LogiCorp landed its biggest client yet, a multi-million-dollar retail giant that needed a complete overhaul of their supply chain tracking software. Because I knew the system inside and out, I was put in charge of the back-end architecture. I spent 3 weeks working 12-hour days, skipping lunches, and drinking enough coffee to power a small country. 2 days before the final presentation to the board and the client, I finished the prototype. It was flawless. I uploaded it to the company's secure server and sent Greg the access links so he could review it. The next morning, I walked into the office, and Greg called me into his glass-walled room. He looked smug. "Sit down," Greg said, leaning back. "We have a problem. I reviewed your work last night. It's completely broken. The code is messy, the UI is lagging, and honestly, I'm shocked you thought this was ready." I stared at him, my heart dropping. "What do you mean?" "I ran 20 stress tests yesterday. It passed all of them with 0 errors." "Are you calling me a liar?" Greg's voice got cold. "Look, the client is coming tomorrow. I can't let you present this garbage. Fortunately for you, I stayed up all night completely rewriting the core infrastructure. I fixed your mess." He then handed me a printed document. It was a formal write-up for poor performance and endangering a major company account. He told me to sign it, or he would fire me on the spot. I was devastated, confused, and honestly, terrified of losing my income. So, like an idiot, I signed it. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I logged into the server from home using my admin credentials to see what fixes Greg had made. Spiders, when I tell you I gasped, I mean it. Greg hadn't rewritten anything. He had literally just taken my entire project, changed the author tags from my name to his name in the documentation, and altered the version history. To make it look like he did work, he deleted my optimization scripts, which actually made the program run slower. He was stealing my work to secure a massive promotion to vice president, and using the write-up to ensure I couldn't complain to HR without looking like a bitter, underperforming employee. I sat at my desk at 2 a.m., furious. But then, a wave of calm washed over me. I remembered one crucial thing: Greg didn't understand the system. He just assumed it worked because it looked pretty. So, I decided to give Greg exactly what he wanted: full ownership of the project. In my original code, I had implemented an automated security token gateway. Because it was a prototype, the gateway required a manual handshake from my local workstation every 24 hours, or the database would automatically lock itself down as an anti-theft measure. It was a standard safety feature we always used during development. All I had to do was nothing. I didn't remove the security gateway. I didn't transfer the handshake protocols to Greg's computer. I just packed my digital bags. The next morning was the big presentation. The boardroom was packed with the CEO, the board of directors, and the billionaire clients. Greg stood at the front of the room, wearing a tailored suit, smiling like he just won the lottery. I sat in the back row. Greg began the presentation, showing off the sleek interface. The clients were visibly impressed. Then, the CEO stood up. "This is incredible work, Greg," the CEO said. "Our internal notes say there were some performance issues early on. How did you resolve them? Greg smirked and looked directly at me. Well, sir, unfortunately, some of our team members weren't up to the task. I had to step in, completely overhaul the back end myself, and fix the amateur mistakes that were made. It was a lot of sleepless nights, but I do what's best for this company. The board nodded in approval. The client signed the contract right there in the room. Greg was praised as a hero. As soon as the meeting ended, I walked back to my desk. I typed out a brief email to Greg, CCing HR and the CEO. Dear Greg, per our discussion yesterday regarding my poor performance, I agree that I am no longer a good fit for this department. Please accept this email as my immediate resignation, effective right now. My laptop is on my desk. Good luck with the deployment. I grabbed my backpack, walked past Greg's office, where he was already celebrating with a glass of champagne, and walked out the door. Here is where the malicious compliance turns into total chaos. Since I resigned, my company account was automatically deactivated by IT at 5 p.m. Along with my account, my local workstation, the one holding the security handshake protocol, was wiped and shut down. The next day was Saturday. At exactly 9 a.m., the 24-hour security timer expired. The entire supply chain system, now live and integrated with the new client's global inventory, detected a security breach because it didn't receive the handshake from my wiped computer. The system did exactly what I programmed it to do. It encrypted the database and locked everyone out. My phone started blowing up at 9:15 a.m. I had 14 missed calls from Greg, 5 from HR, and 2 from the CEO himself. I ignored all of them. I put my phone on silent, made a nice breakfast, and went for a walk in the park. On Monday morning, I finally answered a call from the CEO. He sounded desperate. "Hi," he said, his voice shaking. "The system is completely down. The client is losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every hour. Greg says you sabotaged the code before you left." "Sir," I replied calmly, "I didn't sabotage anything. The system is operating under standard development protocols. Greg told you and the board that he completely rewrote the core infrastructure himself. If he wrote it, he should know exactly how to unlock it. Why is he asking me?" There was a long silence on the line. The CEO realized exactly what had happened. "What will it take for you to come fix this?" the CEO asked. "I am no longer an employee," I said. "But I can work as an independent consultant. My fee is $15,000 upfront, a written retraction of the performance write-up Greg forced me to sign, and a guaranteed contract for future maintenance at double my previous hourly rate." The CEO didn't even hesitate. "Deal. Send me the paperwork." I sent the contract, received the wire transfer, and walking back into Logi Corp 2 hours later. The IT department was in a panic. Greg was sitting in his office, looking pale and sweating through his expensive suit. I sat down at a terminal, typed in the master override key, which took me exactly 45 seconds, and the entire system roared back to life. The data unencrypted, and the client's operations resumed. The CEO walked into the room, looked at the screen, and then looked at Greg. "Greg," the CEO said coldly, "my office. Now." I later found out from HR that Greg was fired on the spot for gross incompetence, intellectual property theft, and falsifying corporate records. Because he had signed his name to the documentation claiming he wrote the code, he couldn't even sue the company for wrongful termination. The best part? The company ended up outsourcing the entire department's management to an external consultancy firm, which is owned by a close friend of mine. I now work 15 hours a week from home, making twice as much money, and I never have to look at Greg's smug face ever again. So, Greg, thanks for the write-up. It was the best promotion I ever got. But wait, spiders, the story doesn't end there. While I was dealing with the corporate madness, my family drama decided to boil over at the exact same time. My parents passed away a few years ago, leaving a beautiful beach house that had been in our family for generations. In the will, the house was left 100% to me, because I was the one who took care of them and paid off their remaining medical debts, which amounted to nearly $50,000. My older brother, Leo, got a smaller cash inheritance because he hadn't spoken to our parents in 5 years. Leo was furious about the house, but legally, he couldn't touch it. Cut to last month. I was planning to rent the house out on Airbnb to get some passive income. When I drove down to the property to install smart locks and cameras, I noticed a strange car in the driveway. I walked up to the front door, and my key wouldn't fit the lock. The locks had been changed. I knocked loudly. The door opened, and standing there was Leo's mother-in-law, holding a glass of wine, wearing a bathrobe. Behind her, I could see Leo's kids running around the living room, throwing toys at the walls. Leo had literally given his in-laws the keys to my house, told them they could live there rent-free indefinitely, and helped them change the locks while I was busy with my new consulting job. I called Leo immediately. He answered with an attitude. "Hey, look, you don't even use that house," Leo said. "My wife's parents were losing their apartment. Family helps family. Don't be selfish. Leo, you broke into my property and put strangers in it. They have 24 hours to leave, or I'm calling the police," I warned him. Leo laughed. "Go ahead. In this state, once someone moves their furniture in, they have squatters' rights. It will take you a year in court to evict them. Just let them stay." He was right about one thing: eviction laws in that area are a nightmare for landlords. If I filed a standard eviction, it would take months and thousands of dollars. But Leo forgot one major detail. The house was technically registered as a commercial holiday property because of how my parents structured their estate for tax purposes. It wasn't classified as a residential home. Instead of calling the police for trespassing, I called the utility companies. Since the account was in my name, I requested an immediate, emergency suspension of electricity, water, and gas for scheduled structural renovations. Within 4 hours, the house was completely dark. No water, no lights, no air conditioning in the middle of a 32-degree summer day. Next, I hired a professional junk removal service. I showed up at the house with 3 large trucks and a copy of my property deed. I informed Leo's in-laws that a massive fumigation and construction crew was arriving, and everything left inside the house would be thrown into a dumpster as hazardous waste. You have never seen senior citizens pack their bags so fast. They were screaming, calling Leo, crying that they were being attacked. Leo called me, screaming through the phone that I was a monster and that his wife was going to divorce him over this. I told him, "You wanted to play legal games, Leo. I just played by my rules." They cleared out by sunset. I changed the locks back, installed heavy-duty security shutters, and hired a local property manager to guard the place. Leo's wife's family is now forced to live in Leo's cramped basement, and my brother has been blocked on every platform. Sometimes, family is the biggest snake in the grass. Wow. Talk about a double dose of karma. Greg tried to steal a career, Leo tried to steal a house, and both ended up with absolutely nothing. What do you think, spiders? Did I go too far by cutting off the utilities on Leo's in-laws, or did they get exactly what they deserved? And what would you have done if your boss stole your multi-million-dollar project? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Don't forget to spin that like button, subscribe to the web here at Reddit Spider, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Until next time, keep crawling.